the Slovenian, the Australian Slovenian Society, they come on and not the society. I just think they call it the Australian. I've forgotten, but it's the Slovenian show we call it here on station. So tune into that from 8 o'clock, I believe it is, with Tanya and the crew. So look, what we've got. Welcome back, and look now. What we'd like to do is play you an interview from independent Di Lee, who. I interviewed her yesterday about the new misinformation, disinformation bill, and this is what she had to say. So let me just cue this up for you. This is Di Lee, and I'll leave this with you. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to 89.3 2GLF, your greater voice of Liverpool and Fairfield. You're with BJ today, and we're honoured to have Di Lee, the independent federal member of Fowler, with us today. Di made history as the first refugee woman elected to federal parliament and has been a powerful voice for our Western Sydney community. As someone deeply connected to our local manufacturing sector and multicultural community, she brings a unique insight into today's discussion about the proposed communications legislation amendment bill on misinformation and disinformation. Welcome to the program, Di.
Thank you so much, BJ. Good morning to your listeners.
Oh, it's just so wonderful.
Speaking to you from Canberra, Parliament sitting.
And you're in your final weeks down there, is that right?
That's right. So this is second last week, and then next week is should be the final week, and then Parliament rises. But the work, as you know, doesn't stop. We continue to work, or for me anyway, we continue to work in our community when we get back.
And no one works harder than you out here. I see you everywhere, Di. I mean, you're just out here everywhere in Fairfield and Liverpool.
Thank you, really.
Yeah, I do. Well, I mean, obviously you helped Frank out with the election going back, and
yes.
It's always good to see you out there working together hand in hand, and really outstanding job you do for our local community. And just, I guess, given your deep connections with our diverse Fowler community,
absolutely.
How might this misinformation legislation affect on this bill our local ethnic media and multicultural communities, do you feel?
Well, look, I think, as you know, the bill, the government's intention with the bill was to make sure that social media platforms take responsibility for the content that gets posted. And currently there's a voluntary code of behaviour for social media platforms to manage how content gets posted. But what this bill is trying to do is put the responsibility to kind of oversee how social media manage their content is putting in the hands of ACMA, which is an agency that is similar to policing, what gets shared and posted. So, look, I think, and I spoke on this bill, I think the last sitting before we rose for a break, that we're living in a world that's very digital. And the likes of Facebook, X, Snapchat, TikTok, and all those social media platforms are there to provide individuals with the ability to create, to connect, to engage, to find information anywhere, anytime. And I don't believe any government legislation can really prevent the growth of social media platforms, because a lot of them actually are based in the United States. And the issue is that in the United States, there is what they call a Section 230, which is the section states that no provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. So that apparently entails that, and that section 230 was originally part of the Communication Decency Act, and passed by Congress under President Bill Clinton. So that means that any platforms such as that I've mentioned are not considered a publisher. So therefore, they're just a means by which people use to share, to find information, to connect, to exchange information anywhere, anytime. So it can't be controlled. And what I think the government's trying to do is trying to control how we access it and who access the information and how it should be policed. So I think that the reality is that putting restrictions on means that, we're taking away people's ability to connect, to express themselves. And I think it is not up to the government of the day to really prevent us from accessing information. But I think as lawmakers, we need to do is we ensure that individuals are empowered. We can make choices, we can make our own decisions and take full responsibility for our lives. So the government of the day needs to focus on the economy. How do we ensure that, there are, measures in place and tools in place to ensure that our economy is thriving and productive and people can, work, can earn and can address the cost of living. So that's my argument. Rather than going into this space of preventing accessing of information or limiting people's, accessing, diverse perspectives, diverse ideas, and that it sounds like, the government is trying to control what social... And they can't anyway, first of all, they can't. So therefore, creating this legislation is really... I don't think it's going to be... I don't think it's going to pass in the Senate. It passed in the lower house.
Right.
That's where the government had the numbers at the last sitting. Many of us in the crossbench voted against it, but the government had the numbers in the lower house, so it got passed. So now it's going to go up to the Senate. And I just don't think the independents up there would accept this. I call it the MAD bill because, believe it or not, misinformation and disinformation, the initial is MAD, M-A-D. I call it the MAD bill. Yes, it's called the MAD bill. So I don't believe that this MAD bill will pass in the Senate, but it has passed in the lower house.
Right.
So look, we are living in a brave new world, the world of digital, the world of technology, the world that is no longer analog. But I think the best way for the government to protect us, to ensure that everybody from young kids to adults are being able to give, information and educate them on what, to look out for, to have, to be critical of what they read. Not everything you read is true on media or whatever, on social media, whichever platform. You have to have critical thinking and making sure that everything that you read is taken and assessed with a grain of salt and just do a lot of digging and searching because the internet at the moment is just a plethora of information, and you can't police that.
Yeah, you're right. It's very difficult, especially for young, impressionable members of our community that are looking for answers and they're out there trying to discover. And more often than not, they're going, instead of going to reliable sources, they're going to things like social media and TikTok, and it's not only influential, I guess, but it's also, starting to affect their well-being in some respects. I mean, what protections do you think should be in place for, businesses and news media outlets to I guess, avoid these kind of things coming up in future? Because I guess everyone's a little bit worried, Di, that, this is just the beginning, like, why are we doing this?
Yeah, look, and I think, and that's the thing. I mean, I think that yesterday we had a meeting with a group of people who are advocating for youth because of obviously the upcoming social media ban for under 16. This group of people, for academics as well as people working in the for the youth sector, are saying we can't ban access for under 16 to social media because a lot of them are finding community that providing them with an opportunity to talk with. Like I posted this on TikTok, and I said, there's going to be an under 16 social media ban. What are your thoughts? The young people on TikTok have said, please don't do this to us. So it's a space that absolutely it is a scary space to navigate, especially for parents. But I think as a parent myself, is that you guide your child. I mean, of course, you can't stand over their shoulder and be a helicopter parent and ensuring everything that they access, you're going to be overseeing. No, I think it's about you educating your own child and your children to say, this is what you need to look out for. This is what if you want to engage with content, maybe try this, And also there are options as well. I think I have no doubt that, like for instance on TikTok, if you spend over an hour on TikTok, there's a message that comes up and stops you accessing it. And it tells you spent an hour now on TikTok, you can't access it anymore. Please, type in this code if you think you haven't, been there for over an hour. And then you type in a code and you go back in. So it does interrupt your accessibility to TikTok. I don't believe any other platforms are doing that at all, because I'm on most of them. I'm on Snapchat, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube, you name it, because I need to obviously be there to experience it in order for me to speak as well from that lived experience. So I think it's important, and this is what the group said yesterday, for government and educators to work with social media platforms to create a safe experience for young people if we are concerned about young people, for instance. And so because of in a world whereby everybody lives off their phone, and I'm sure you know what that means, Vijay, we can't walk out of the door without taking our phones with us. It's almost like a third arm to us.
Yeah. And
we've become so dependent on it. So we need to find a way that is, especially if we're talking about young people, to get them out to be more active with, boot camps, to be active in social activities, so that they're out of the screen. They don't spend too much time on the screen. So it's up to us as a society as well, in the education system, to engage kids externally outside. So we need to spend time in that, because it's no point going and trying banning kids from accessing social media, because they'll find other ways to access social media.
Kids are so smart, aren't they? They just work out. They just find a workaround,
Absolutely, so we need to look at more creative ways to get them to be more physically active, to get them to be more, mentally active, but knowing that there's a safe space, a safe experience for them, and we need to work with social media platforms to do that. But preventing something, stopping something, I think, or banning anything, eventually will cause a kind of a black market. Things will go underground, and you don't want that to happen.
Well, that's when it's worse, isn't it, Di? Like, absolutely, you're so right. I mean, look, you're a mum too, and this is you get what mums go through. Like, life is just so busy, and sometimes it's just so much easier to throw the kids a device and go, because it just it stops. You know what I mean? And it's not because we're bad parents. It's just because you need that time to get some stuff done, but. It also you don't it creates these problems. How do you deal with it in your home? What's your attitude towards kids and how they access social media?
Look, my son is 21 now, but when he was growing up, that's before the explosion of social media. But we did have devices such as iPads back in those days already. Anyway, when he was 5 and 6, I never actually put him in front. When we go to a restaurant or when we go somewhere, I don't place him in front of an iPad. I don't give him a phone to look at while I'm talking to friends. I always make sure he's kind of, playing with other kids and, bring their toys for them to play. So, so maybe 15 years ago, it was less intrusive in terms of social media. But I do note that a lot of parents, when you bring kids out to a group of people, I find a lot of parents do give their children a device to look at. Perhaps not a device, maybe get him a toy, maybe get him some kind of a game for them to actually not be attached to a screen.
Yeah.
That's the one simple way, because, like I said, so my son only got a phone when he was in year 7, year 8, because, and it wasn't a smartphone back then. So, smartphones nowadays are such a smart technology piece. You're almost taking a computer with you everywhere you go. So that is a bigger challenge for parents in this day and age compared to, say, 15 years ago. So I understand it makes it very hard for parents, especially, you've got quite a few, 3 or 4 kids to look after. But I think it's finding creative ways. I think a toy, getting something, not a phone, and resist having a phone. Giving them a phone and giving in to say, here's a phone for you to and putting a game on it, because that's then the start, because it is
right.
It is addictive.
You're right. You're so right. Di, I'm taking up extra time of yours. I know you're super busy down there in Canberra. I want to thank you so much for coming on and speaking to the community today. And when are you coming home? Well, you're spending Christmas at home here in Fairfield?
Yes, of course. It's 2 weeks of sitting, so I'm back Thursday night, and then I've got meetings, school visits on Friday. I've got events Saturday, about 3 events, and then I got back to Canberra Sunday for the last sitting week.
My goodness, you're a busy lady. So busy. Thank you so much for what you do for our community, Di. We're so lucky to have someone like you standing up for us down there, and I want to thank you for your time today.
Thanks so much, Richard. Anytime, do reach out if you think that, happy to organise some kind of a regular catch-up to brief our local listeners on some of the things that are happening here at Parliament, of course. So let us know. We will have to probably organise something more scheduled in a proper way.
I have never come across someone in your position that is so accessible to me. I made this call on yesterday, and today I've got an interview, and I just want to thank you so much, because it is really special to get your message out. Thanks, Di.
You're welcome.
Have a great
Anytime.
Christmas.
Thank you.
Well, there you go. Sorry, I just cut that off there at the last second, just saying goodbye. But look, yeah, I mean, she was amazing. As I said, very accessible, and had quite a few interesting things to say, I thought. Michael, what did you have to say there?
Oh, look, the MAD bill has been going big time, and it's progressed quite well. There's a few developments that have happened in the last few days. So the 4 crossbench senators that we were waiting on, so Senator Thorpe, Senator Payman, Senator
Pocock.
No, Van.
Oh, Van.
Senator Van.
Okay.
And who's the
Lambie. Lambie.
Jackie Lambie as well. And there's a couple others, but look, they've all indicated that they're going to vote no.
Yeah, which is great. So, I mean, that's good. It was good, but I did want to get her on, because even though it was becoming, well, it's not. Nothing's done till it's done, is it? But it seems obvious that it's going to go down. It's
a case of, look, if the bill. There's one thing that's happened that's been proposed by Senator Malcolm Roberts, and that is that on the 25th of November, that he will move the Communications Legislation Amendment Combating Misinformation and Disinformation Bill, aka MAD Bill, is to be discharged from the notice paper. So this is going to give the Liberal Party and the crossbench a way to show that they can just get rid of this without actually having to vote on it. So hopefully that will happen and it'll be gone.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's got to go to a formal vote. So then it'll be a case of waiting to see who actually votes the way they've indicated. Next week will be the telling tale. In the meantime, there's this social media age verification legislation that's going to be introduced
I saw that.
Today or tomorrow. And this is a bipartisan bill, so I don't think that that's going to go away as easily as the MAD bill, because you've got both the Liberal Party and the Labor Party, or the Labor Party and the Liberal Party and the Greens all prepared to back that. So unlike the MAD bill, I mean, the MAD bill had I think, 3 petitions from various sources. I know Senator Alex Antich had a petition. George Christensen had a petition through his Citizen Go and one other, all 30,000 plus signatures on each of those. And, you know, there were many letters. I mean, I've actually sent, we've sent a letter on behalf of the organisation that I represent, which is the Religious Freedom Alliance, from a religious point of view as well.
Okay.
So,
well, look, let's leave that one there. Obviously, that was a quite long interview. We're going to have a bit of a break and we're going to come back.